Dr. Abraham George. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. Before going ahead, I would like to read out the brief CV of Dr. Abraham. Dr. Abraham has graduated with the first rank in BR from the University of Kerala in 1986, secured Masters with excellent grade from IIT Kharagpur in 1991, and Ph.D. in Development of Symbolic Tools of Communication in Architecture from Calicut University, 2005. He worked as an active faculty member of the Department of Architecture, NIT Calicut, from August 1988 to January 2009, and has contributed to the cause of architecture through institution development, numerous building and interior projects, including the prestigious administrative complex of NITC, research projects, published papers, etc. He was awarded the John Crawford Scholarship by the Government of Australia, 1992, and Fulbright Research Fellowship in 2003-04 with Center of Research at the Department of Architecture, Cornell University, New York. The Nehru Trust for Cambridge Collection, Victoria Albert Museum, UK, had awarded him research grant for 2005 and 6. His paper, Gazing into the Future of Architecture and Evolving Profession, was awarded the Best Faculty Paper Award in the Golden Jubilee Conference of School of Architecture and Planning, Chennai, in 2008. He is member Board of Studies of School of Architecture and Planning, Anna University, University of Calicut, member of editorial board of many reputed international journals, and member of review panel of International Congress, Petronas University, Kuala Lumpur. He worked as a chairman, academic board, IIA Kerala Chapter, vice chairman, IIA Calicut Center till Feb 2009. Formerly, he contributed as the head of the Department of Architecture and lately built up the Department of Architecture NIT Calicut to the national level, accredited by the Council of Architecture in the 2009. Dr. Abraham has joined IIT Kharagpur in 2009. He is professor and head of the Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Kharagpur. Sir, we all are eager to listen to you. Now I would like to hand over this platform to you. Thank you so much, sir.
Have the slides. Can I share the slides?
Yeah, you can.
I hope all of you can hear me.
Yeah, it's you're audible and the screen is visible.
Okay. A warm welcome to the afternoon session. A post-lunch session is always very difficult because you find it difficult to keep yourself awake. But however, I will try my level best so that the session will be interesting for you. I will be addressing many questions in the end. First, let me complete the presentation, an empowering process for architecture education. So we are actually at the verge of a big crisis. I am Professor Abraham George from the head of the Department of Architecture and Regional Planning, IIT Kharagpur. So an empowering process for architecture education is a matter for our discussion, and the organization of the presentation is introduction, which tells about why an intervention is needed, then architectural curriculum and its evolution, then we will move on to the post-independent scenario in India, then curriculum after globalization, survey and analysis results of among the final year BR students in 3 major universities we could cover, and that I will be presenting to you. Then we will give a little bit of our time to cognitive learning, and versus the outcome-based education, how exactly these two could be merged, and what is our final outcome. This is something that I would like to delve deep. Why not we shift into in terms of an enabling curriculum or an empowering curriculum? Then the design education, the transformation to creative architects will be another point that I will ponder. Then I will raise so many questions to the stakeholders, and I'll have a conclusion. After that, we will go for the discussion, panel discussion. So as the introduction, the profession of education of architecture at the crossroads facing irrelevance as compared to yesteryears. This is a caption statement that I use just to introduce the problems where we are in and what are the prospects for us. The architecture then, it was basically individual works of art and culture, intuitive design methods, relied on experience, judgment, and the talent of the individual designer. Traditional skills, we look for architectural ideas including formal aesthetics, building technology, history, practical skills like sketching, model making, perspective drawing, etc. Whereas now, today, as we face the challenges of a global nature, influence of computers, changing roles of professionals, perils of climate change, failing economy, and man-made calamities, and also the pandemics now, which we are experiencing for the past 1+ year. How are we preparing our graduates to face these challenges, to remain relevant in the field? The skills now we look for are basically computation, modeling, coding, efficiency of evaluation, performance evaluation, simulation, BIM, project management, and in-depth knowledge of modern materials and technology. So for example, stainless steel, how exactly it could be used for construction. This is something that we need to explore and we need to keep on updating. This study investigates the perceptions, aspirations, and difficulties that the learners face in undergraduate architectural education, and to explore the appropriateness of this cognitive approach to effective learning and empowerment. It is essential to understand which are the skills needed for empowerment of the graduates of the 5-year BRs program, especially in the facing new world challenges. Let's move. In the olden days, the approach in architectural education, it was theory-based, ideal, philosophical, with less practical insight, can avoid economic viability. Why? Because the patrons of architecture in those days were kings, nobles, and the state. Whereas today, it is a profit motivated and consumerist environment that you have to face. Architecture created has emphasis on practical insight, economic viability, safety, performance evaluation, and definitely profit. Therefore, architecture cannot be simply a fine art based product. It has stopped or ceased to become simply a fine art based product, but it should be based on the principles of formal composition, whereas architecture in built form, created in real life, has less emphasis on such formal design than on functional, performance, and structural goals. To this, you can add all the performance ratings created so far, like Griha, LEED, then ECPC code. So, lot of sustainability indices are being developed, and user satisfaction is again an important criteria. These are the things that people look for in contemporary scenario. The shortfall in today's education is that it does not prepare the professionals of tomorrow who are employable and empowered. While the visual culture has invaded the pragmatic and the performance domains. This is quite evident when we listen to this webinar. Normally, we used to see and interact with the persons in a three-dimensional space with all settings of light, mood, etc. But now we are restricted to our senses of sight and hearing. And you know, the effectiveness of such a visual system alone, supported by auditory clues, this will not simply result in the total involvement of the senses, which we will dwell deep in the coming slides. Although many types of researches have conducted in how adults learn and how instruction can be designed to facilitate learning and maximize performance, too little of the cutting-edge knowledge in the field has been made its way into architectural education. It is not the dearth of information, but the actualization of such instructions and research, the fruits of the research, infiltrating and modifying the educational scenario in India. Studies conducted with stakeholders, particularly the students of BR's program, I consider them as the most important factor. We have so many regulatory bodies, we have institutional restrictions, all these things are right. But the beneficiaries are the students. That is something which we cannot forget. So we thought we will take the BR students and then let them speak so that their problems they will reveal. So it is high time to look into the mode of delivery and instruction to enhance the cognition-based learning and empowerment of the learners. Why do we say so? In architectural education, like every other education, conveys, conserves, transmits the profession and the knowledge and the society's values at large. In a traditional society, it is always the technological and cultural peak that is seen. Whereas in a fast-moving, globalized world like ours, this peak doesn't exist. You can take it to any level that you want. If only you are enabled, then only you will be able to address these problems. What is this enabling and empowerment? We will definitely look into it. It is of no wonder that the employers cannot invest in employee development, but in the production of their survival, especially when the global economy is down. I am sure all of us, being teachers, are aware of the salary cuts that we have faced in different domains and how exactly employers behave to the employees. So, the total number of colleges in India is around 465 as per the Council of Architecture, and the year-wise enrollment is 22,000. The percentage of vacancies in seats kept increasing per year. In 2008-2009, before the declaration that we need so many seats and so many architecture schools, and all these declarations came out of projections. And in 2019 to 20, it rose to 36.25, and definitely it will be on the higher side now. The number of vacancies in various schools of architecture, as against the prediction of the Council of Architecture, Indian Institute of Architects, and the All India Council for Technical Education, which is otherwise known as AICTE, now presents a faint picture nationally requiring an alternative mode of delivery and cognition-based learning if our students are to remain interested and if they are to continue to remain interested. The National Education Policy 2020, Ministry of Education, Government of India. This policy restructures education at initial and higher levels of education to a more practical, visionary outlook, upholding the traditional values and knowledge systems. The policy lays stress on bilingual and student-centric educational process, which will make the learners to take cognition of what they learn and to be empowered after a successful completion of the program. Now the stress is on bilingual education. You have to make people understand, at least through your speech, that these are the things that you want to communicate to them. The key is learning to learn. Highlights are the collaborative research, design and innovation, and learn how to learn in the process of education. If knowledge acquisition was once an aim, learning to learn is the main aim now. The thrust is there on learning to learn. It lays thrust on what education must develop, not only cognitive capacities, foundational capacities of literacy, numeracy, and higher order cognitive capacities such as critical thinking and problem solving, but also social, ethical, emotional capacities and dispositions for which social aspects and cultural aspects shall be integrated into learning process. We know making of an architect is very important, but it is all the more important to make good citizens out of them. The tragic departure of architecture from mathematics, basic sciences, research with scientific rigor, and literature which are relevant has made it a visual art more than performing architecture, which will better human habitation and the total environment where it stands. IITs place stress on research and integration of design with the other branches of engineering that are taught, arts, and even with the science of happiness. We understand that the students are stressed heavily in the campus, and we give them a lot of works, and they have a lot of other intentions also while joining and continuing their education in institutes of higher education. So they have to prepare themselves a portfolio, they have to work out their connections, they have to get finally inducted into a good job with a higher pay and satisfactory stability. Otherwise, they will definitely be under stress. Truth always lies in the performing architecture, where visual quality is only one among many of the expectations. Energy efficiency, resource management, rainwater harvesting, rainwater management, solar energy generation and utilization, besides accommodating human lives with happiness and comfort. Well, these are very important, and for which the studies must equip them. And let us see which are these areas and what are their concerns. Even well-reputed architects like Buckminster Fuller had its own trouble and frustrations and stress in the practice. And he almost said, I am fed up of arguing with God and world. And he was about to finish his life. Without creativity, one is at a large disadvantage in the community hell of consumerism. You know that today's norm is to get everything printed. Who knows? There is a day when a customization also can happen and get things done printed on your site itself. So we are moving towards consumerism and customization. This is a big thing that we have to understand. Else we will have to go back into the alleys of history. The process is more of nurturing creativity through science, the series of projects that require critique and close interaction. Nurturing human relationships and discourse requires appropriate settings. Architectural education is not an exception. And you know that the architecture schools are the happiest departments in a campus. At the same time, happiness alone will not count. You need to be empowered, you need to be strengthened to make your own decisions and face the world and please it by satisfying the norms and expectations. The setting is a space enclosed with elements in the right relationship. Do we have that? This is a big question. The absence of a setting is a strong reason for heterogeneity and stress buildup. I have visited many architecture schools many engineering colleges throughout India, and I have also visited some schools and studied in some schools in Australia and in US. What I have observed in my expert visit committees, that is called which is very confidential and surprise visit committees, and they do it in a surprise manner. We will leave our visit, but to our utter surprise, do we find simple sheds which are covered with asbestos or maybe even tin sheets, and they run on borrowed generators? They don't have laboratory spaces, they have outdated equipments, they have no fitting space where students can learn. Hope you all will be lucky enough to have such good, strong setting, and you can probably keep on nurturing the dialogue with your teachers and discourse with your counterparts. Discourse is the center of such type of a design learning, where cognitive approach yields its merits and learners gets empowered. This word empowerment is the key, and you have to keep that in your mind. Are you really empowered? This is a question. I am able to design, but design what? Am I able to design which will satisfy all the performance requirements? Or am I simply creating an architecture or architecture or architecture? So these are the questions that one has to keep in your mind. As always, this cognitive and discourse-based learning generates a knowledge tension, and this tension between the known and the unknown, which results in learning. Three components of creativity mainly: expertise, that is knowledge, creative thinking skills, which are novelty, imagination, and motivation, which can be intrinsic, influenced by the work environment, and extrinsic, tangible rewards. It is proven through many studies that the power of symbolic thinking in design is very important. Graphic thinking and teaching will impart the notion of abstract, which prompts you to think about and the matter being taught. Once you are getting a command on this, you also will be in a position to convert your verbal descriptions to sketches, abstracts, which will again get refined to the will form, which will satisfy a complexity of requirements. It is alarming to note that not more than 30% students would like to choose their profession architecture, but sail away to related subjects of management or research in higher institutes in search of better pay packages. So this is a revelation that one has to, that all the teachers must keep in their mind, that not more than 30% are interested in the profession of architecture. They would like to sail away. But where are they going? What are the options available? The system that the beginners take much interest in minor subjects, and they will also get a degree in minor than the major subjects. National education policy aptly lays stress on cross-migration and even a degree in minor, with which learners may find better opportunities. In order to investigate the expectations and aspirations along with the difficulties faced by the learners in undergraduate education, a survey was conducted in 3 major institutes. Let's see the expressions. The problems and prospects. The problems are male domination, social taboo, no influence of religion, assigned roles for women as mother, wife, homemaker, option for change to other streams which they cherish, no steady package, no appropriate package, neither it is steady. Opportunity same as the other departments, low salary, soft skill development, real practical work situation, equal opportunities, starting on firm which needs empowerment, placements which needs empowerment, lack of opportunities, of course, increasing in the situation of the pandemic, and then very bad infrastructure. So these are some of the problems, but that situation is bleak, but we should overcome it with unity. Then the student response regarding their expectations when they join the arts program. Why do they join the arts program? Highly paid job, which requires empowerment. That's the first option they project. Information accrual is second. Reputation, learning to design effectively, which requires empowerment. Branch change, option for other streams. That means there should be a cross-migration option fitted into the architectural design program, so that they can, if they want to go to other streams after 3 years of study, they would prefer to go to other areas of studies. Let them be prepared for that. Designing according to own opinion. This was a preference that the students gave. Many times teachers influence them such that their ideas are pushed into the minds of the students, which is not really good. Making them, enabling them to design properly is our role and responsibility. Opportunities as same as other departments. Say a mechanical engineering student or a computer science engineering student, when he gets opportunities, the same opportunities we also should get. Are we empowering our students to relevant skills, with relevant knowledge and understanding, so that they will be able to face the world outside? Innovation. This is a key word you will find in the educational policy 2020, that innovation, products, development of products, and all these are given very high importance. Even a course is brought in which is called DIY, do it yourself. DIY, do it yourself projects. So that is just like any other course with 3 credits. You can choose something, you can learn about it, you can come out with a product, and institutional funding also will be available for that, so that your group work and capabilities, skills are nourished, and you come up with something useful. That will make your whole perspective of education upside down. Soft skill development, real practical work, masters in foreign universities, starting on firm empowerment, preparing for CAT and other exams. They want to move away. Graphic design is not a very important option for them. However, some of the students, they go to NIDs and pursue their masters there. Placements which require empowerment, this is very important. Do we have a placement cell? Maybe. But is it empowered enough to place your students and come up with a placement record which is acceptable, which is attractive? Infrastructure. What are the infrastructure we have to promote learning and empowerment? Connections. It's basically networking that they mean, so that they can move and get jobs or advisors or maybe mentoring. This is something that we have to think about. Sufficient open electives. The problem of elective is that in many a department, electives are not offered, or maybe 3 electives are shown in the syllabus, in the curriculum, but only 1 will be given. In that way, we restrict the availability of faculty and expertise, and restrict the students to not elective subject, but to a core subject, which becomes a mandatory subject. So it is very important that all schools, those who have shown electives, shall offer these electives also. Equal opportunity, it's always a cry among the students. Now, parameters where education got really affected. Number 1, the extremely dissatisfied students are 5%, and another 10% is very dissatisfied. So 25% is gone. Moderately dissatisfied is 35%. Then the next 15%, slightly dissatisfied. Then The rest is neither not satisfied or dissatisfied. They do not know. They don't just care. Then very satisfied is only 15% to 10%. If you add up these two, you will result into 25%, who will definitely remain in architectural studies. Cognition and communication problem was given importance. So 75% of the students, they say that communication is a problem and they can't understand what is being taught. If you go to any class, you will find that people are there sitting respectfully, but the real communication is not being effected. See, we have to consider today's education not in the Gurukula system, but in the mass education system. It is the institution-oriented mass education system that is prevailing. And we have to understand that faculty of various nature, culture, exposure levels. Similarly, students of various culture, various societies, various exposure levels, they are coming and meeting in the class. So this is called heterogeneity. And this heterogeneity does not conclude into a communication, a good communication. What we need to do is to reduce this heterogeneity and bring in homogeneity. And this can be done through this process of 5 years of training. So cognition problem, there is 55% agreed that there is cognition problem. Cognition is problem which doesn't exist, only 25%, doesn't know is 20%. So absolutely 75%, including those who do not what cognition is, composing a major chunk of our students. My colleagues will understand the importance of communication, and it is the communication that makes the heterogeneity lower and homogeneity grow. The lack of cognition requires the joint effort of all five senses of perception, whereas learning mode considers majorly this sight and hearing. Perception level and involvement of all participatory senses, and this is very, very important in the process of learning, has to be increased for better understanding and comprehension. That is leading to better cognizance and this empowerment. So if you are able to take cognizance, means to understand, to reflect on, to bring in new, this empowerment to produce wisdom or knowledge which is new, which is your contribution, that is the mark of empowerment. Demonstration problem. Many of the issues discussed in the theory classes are not demonstrated. Of course, we do take care of the civil engineering, a little bit of mechanical engineering, a little bit of electrical engineering through the laboratory work. But what about our workshops, our work yards? Are they in the right position? Do we encourage students to go there and play with materials, work out their fantasies? So 50% of students, they want demonstration of a theory that is put in front of them. Face trouble in getting an internship. This is another problem. 40% of the students, especially in the week of the pandemic, they experience the problem of internship. And 60% didn't face internship trouble. They could get into some form or other. Although it is virtual mode now, we have revised our training manual to take care of the different aspects of virtual training. And see, for example, site examination, we cannot do it now. Physically, nobody knows the smell of the soil, what type of soil, whether it is brittle or whether it has sand content more or not, which could have been just known by the examination by the hand. That opportunity is not there. So definitely, virtual education has its own difficulties, but that's the only way before us now. Now, cognition-based learning, it's basically a process of perceiving, recording, storing, organizing, and using information. However, in the process of cognition, the input is from a perception, which depends to a large extent on the space, design, elements used, and the participation of nature with indoor space. So it is basically a good interface, a good integration of the interior and exterior that is found to be always invigorating to the students. But do we have it? Cognition plays a crucial role in the knowledge acquisition and skill acquisition, but do not end there, but continue to knowledge production and invention, which is a result of empowerment. You can say a person is empowered only if he or she is able to produce new knowledge. Have we produced new knowledge? Are we in the process of production of new knowledge? This is a question every teacher should ask, every student should ask to themselves. The cognitive strategies are systematic methods people use to process information and solve problems, not just numerical, but in all domains, including survival. Cognitive strategies will be useful for students and teachers to learn, assimilate, reflect, and to aptly apply the same in the production of new knowledge and inventions. The purpose of cognitive-based learning system is to define and evaluate how the students learn and then teach in a way that supports their learning style. This will lead to empowerment. On the contrary, the outcome-based education, its emphasis is on the production of prescribed outcome, a standard, an acceptable one, an acceptable outcome, which is expected to obtain, building up a good theoretical base, structured instruction and education, appropriate instructional practices. But don't we think that we have all aimed for production outcome and that's why we teach? Where is the problem? This is something that we have to ponder on. What shall be done? Find a way to nurture the development of creativity and pragmatism that could be integrated well with the process of education. This could definitely be of our advantage. So just don't stop with the outcome-based education. Get into the process of learning, the process of accumulating knowledge, process of processing knowledge, process of applying the same knowledge with interpretation to produce new knowledge. Architecture needs empowerment. It is not simply a production that is required, but we need a performing production. Therefore, creative and better standards are required to establish a niche and to establish uniqueness of the architect. Performance-based education is very, very important. Why not a shift in terms of empowerment? This is a good question. Can't we move to an empowerment through our educational system? Let's see. Now, when I say empowerment, there are so many factors involved in it. Do we have the right faculty? I am specially asking these questions to the management and the approval bodies or accreditation bodies. Do we have the right faculty? When we talk about empowerment, what is the state of the teachers of architecture? Are they amply qualified to teach and empower the students? What have they contributed to the body of knowledge? Did they produce any new knowledge? Do you have your own philosophy? Do you create something which is performing? Are they adequately paid for their time and resources they invest in architectural education? This is a very crucial question. I will not recommend any pay cut or any other type of salary cut or these things for the teachers. For the teachers are the models. They are the producers of the future of the nation. What additional training the researchers the teachers get in order to improve their skills? Management, do you have provision for the teachers to get trained additionally for improving their skills of communication? Do you have the right infrastructure? Or are you simply running a school for the namesake and making profit out of it? This is the situation I have found in many places. When we talk about empowerment, what's the state of the infrastructure of the schools? Do you continuously improve the facilities to empower the students? Or are you still working with Windows 8 and all those things, and the software which is not subscribed to? I know this is the state of being in many reputed colleges themselves. Do we continuously improve the facilities? This is very important. What about the attitude of the school management? Is it proactive? Do we have proper networking with industries? Do we have a good placement cell with an appropriate head for it? Does the management reward them properly without any pay cut? These are all some of the questions, the practical questions that comes before we think about the outcome-based education or cognitive empowerment. However, these are important questions that needs to be addressed. Now, a shift in terms of empowerment in academics is shown by the spiral. A traditional teaching, this involves sight and hearing. Cognition, which involves all senses, sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, and reflecting also, so that you can reconsider the knowledge, you can interpret it, reinterpret it. Interference of the ideas, which is called the discourse. When you talk to your professors or a professional, he will have a set of ideas and you have a set of ideas. When they interfere, you will find new knowledge emerging. Reflection of knowledge, knowledge acquisition, knowledge production, knowledge updation. These are very, very important. Learner empowerment is a result of holistic and cognitive-based pedagogy. You can improve your skills, you can remain it to be like that and then cry. That's another option. But as a creative architect, as a responsible, passionate teacher, one has to improve on their own skills and their own knowledge production and their own knowledge updation. So too, the students too shall thrust on this. The interference of ideas through discourse, reflection of knowledge, knowledge acquisition, new knowledge production, knowledge updation. For example, many of my students, they have patents in their name. We give a lot of stress on patents. Do you, the professors or the teachers of architectural education and the management support this idea of patent protection? Why can't they? We are a group of huge intellect, and this has to be put into use in solving our problems. Finding out the right problem requires a search and inquiry into the society. What is useful for them, that is what you want to produce. For example, hope all of you know what type of an artist. It is called Pattachitra. Patta means the skin of the tree. And Chitra means it's a painting. So on the skin of a tree, this Pingla artist, Naya Pingla artists of West Bengal, they paint using the symbols which are embedded with meaning, and it shows about their culture, an information sheet which is shown about their culture. And the interesting part of that is they move their fingers from one to the other whenever they speak about it. And you know, now the thing transcends into the level of multimodality, and one way it is visual, the other way it is audible now. Now there is the movement which produces the dynamism, the setting of theirs. It produces a particular effect and mood on the learners, and you find this is happening like a cinema. It goes on. Probably you can see the first cinemas were this. the Pattachitras, where they narrate as well as show the picture. So both of them happening together, and it becomes a very good communication model that we can adopt. So if we look into our society, if we look into our tradition, if we look into our own heritage, we will find a lot of models by which the gurus used to communicate with their students. And why not we do so? This production resulted in the students were given an appropriate themes, and the students did an exercise. They went around searching for the symbols that will represent the magnitude, the meaning, the content, what they want to speak, and what the effect they want to produce in the listeners. And they came out with wonderful works, which probably are the results of empowerment. Shall we remain complacent? One way is to remain complacent. Okay, let it happen, whatever is going to happen, let it happen. And then you will remain as a blockhead. My conclusions. There exists a disparity between how the subject of architecture is approached in design education and how architecture is created. Therefore, it is crucial to analyze content, process, and teaching style in architectural education if we are to remain relevant and valuable in the society. The survey and studies conclude that the expectations of the final year BR student are learning to design effectively, information accrual, innovation, which is essential for empowerment. Students aspire to have their own firms and highly paid jobs. These are the two main options and opportunities as other branches of engineering. Difficulties they face in BR's degree lectures and studios are communication, demonstration, space, equipments, infrastructure leading to cognition problems. They prefer practical and field-based knowledge, emphasizing conceptual understanding rather than drafting and drawing sheets. I would love to say that our students also try the design build, which was good in a particular time of period of time. But now one has to really think about the implications of design build in today's context, whether we will be able to do so and what are the consequences of it. However, we are bound to try. Even the new education policy of 2020 talks about instilling skills, values, and dispositions that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainability, living, happy living, global well-being, reflecting a truly global citizen. That should be our aim. We need to be global citizens. We need to be enabled global citizens so that we will be able to help the world to remain happy and healthy. Cognitive learning benefits to increase the student perception, retention of interest, and information. Perception, retention of interest, and information, to which they are exposed, and later to interpretation and empowerment of the learners. Learning to think effectively and creatively is a result of empowerment. Nation aspires for it. Cognitive learning will enhance creative, critical thinking, and logical decision making, and innovation by instilling empowerment in the learners of architecture. An object and outcome-based education can definitely be switched into it, and we can find a common interface so that this will be further nurtured for the benefit of our society. Therefore, in this explosive situations, it is highly important to look for an appropriate cognition-based empowering curriculum that might combine the direct benefits of outcome-based education, and much research has to be done to make the curriculum cognition-based, with even looking forward for appropriate spaces that will facilitate interaction and discourse, which results in learner empowerment. Look, 2030 is out now. You can't wait for it anymore. We have hoped for 2030 to resolve all our problems, but 2030 is already now. Let us join our hearts and hands. Thank you so much. Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. The presentation was very full of knowledge, and we have a question in the question answer box. I'll read it. Someone is asking, my question is regarding the technological singularity by 2045 may result in building automation to such a level that needs of architect designer will decline considerably. How can School of Architecture start thinking of tackling this issue by adopting more skills in undergraduate course itself?
Well, interesting question. I hope I will not be here as the head of the department by that time. Anyway, I think I have already talked to you. If you just think of this is called adaptive architecture. The book is called Adaptive Architecture. If you just read about it, it tells about the same concern, adaptive architecture. So that book you just I prescribe every teacher to read. See, customization, mass production, and your customization and delivery there. Automation is inbuilt into that. You must have seen already buildings come in packages, and these packets are opened and then they will unfold themselves into built spaces. Automation is there already. Now, customization is the real issue. See, you design something, I can customize it. And then I can get it printed online on my site. This is something wonderful. It's mind-boggling, that idea. By 2045, we do not know the exponential knowledge and research where it will take us. But you can be, by step, you can go and achieve that aim. For example, when we were learning architecture back in 80s, I think I started studying architecture in 1981. At that time, there were no computers. I still remember the days when we used to make a circle, how to make a rectangle and all this. But things have gone off from there. Now you have got walls, you have got parameters, which you can choose and design your walls and then use those walls as components for your building. Parametric modeling is there for you. You can start thinking in terms of small and tangible objects by which you will build up your capacity and you will be really empowered. You feel that you are good. You feel that you can do. But instead of worrying about 2045, think of 2023 or 2025. You can enable yourself for that, meeting the challenges from where you can take strides which will be hopeful for you. Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. I can't
Some
hear it.
same. Yeah. Sorry, I was muted. Same person is writing again. Already read that book, and that's the reason why I asked the question in Indian context, where high tech and low tech with human skills can be adopted.
Well, if you really understand that as your challenge, why don't you just get into the business of addressing it? Say, I have developed a system which is called Vastu 2020, which I think it's a prefabricated, at the same time using a little bit of manual energy also in it. So if every one of us start thinking in terms of it, see, for example, in our department there is a research that the fish scale is modified and made useful as an additive in concrete. So the thing that goes as a waste now is used as a component. Now we are thinking of bamboo as a non-engineered material. Why don't you build up on that? Now here we have developed in the architecture department a lock which is sensed by the GIS, and you can know where your cycle is. You can park it there, and from there on people can make use of it to drive it to another location and keep it there. So the cycle is always tracked, and you are already charged for it, using it. At least you can contribute to the lot to the well-being of the community through these things. I am sure your gray matter is far superior than mine, and you can definitely think about creatively to address the problem.
Right, sir. One more participant, Suparna is asking, is it the right time for drastic change in our syllabus to get into sync with the industry requirement?
Well, I would suggest yes, because there is now institutions of national eminence. It is called IOE institutions. Are you listening to me? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yeah, I think somebody is muting. So the thing is, the institutions of eminence, there are already 3 or 4 IITs selected into that, called institution of eminence, that we are no more required to or constricted by any norms, but we can construct our own verticals and other basket of subjects to be learned with them. So in a way, the student has got lot of options. The first year is common, and from first year you can migrate to anywhere you want. There is something called an introduction of a minor. So this is not just a syllabus issue. This is the whole idea of the pedagogy, the whole idea of education, how exactly you want to make your children to be. So for example, we have a school of happiness here, and you can enroll for a course there and you can be happy all the time. But happiness alone will not help you. That also you should understand. So it is a right choice, guidance, mentoring that is required if you really want to make our students happy in their courses. So it's the syllabus, yes, we teach obsolete syllabus. Now we used to look down upon teachers with yellow papers in their hand, because they were using that for such a long time. Thanks to the digital technology, you have got a PowerPoint presentation that will not change its color to yellow. You don't know whether it is made today or made 10 years before. But students are also exposed to new knowledge. Say for example, now we have a GEM. What is GEM? GEM, GEM. Our professional practice teachers doesn't know what is GEM, and government has already implemented it. We must know that the government has already come up with a governmental e-market, and we have to procure things from there. So definitely it must be an updated, it must be a syllabus which is appropriate to the times. We do the exercises of syllabus revision, but for whose sake? We need to do the syllabus revision only when we develop a very clear understanding about what architecture students are to be. What do you want the outcome to be? I am not talking about the architectural design as the product outcome. I am talking about the product, the student himself. When he, after the end of the 5 years of training, he becomes a graduate who is empowered to handle these complexities. To this end, academicians should think of. And students themselves are one of the most important stakeholders, and they should be involved in that process. It's not that what we want to teach them. It they don't want to learn about Taj Mahal, forget it. If they don't want Gujarati Havelis, forget it. What they want, in which they are interested. See, I have German students coming to me under my mentorship. They do it and who. If you talk to them the process in which where we have given the most importance of process, the process is important. But then they will say, sir, this is not going to be of any benefit to you, me. I want to be enabled to produce what I want. Give them the technology, give them the right technology. Say for example, I'm just setting up a center of excellence in stainless steel here in IIT Kharagpur, architecture department. It's a joint venture with one of the steel manufacturing company. Do our teachers try to get such opportunities so that our students will have an idea about what stainless steel is, what its use is in architecture? I hope I have explained sufficiently within the limitations.
Yes, yes, sure, sir. So one of the panelists, Dr. Bipasha Kumar, she is asking, the question is in chat box, I'm reading it. How would you comment on output-based education and outcome-based education?
See, I will take her probably to further to the beginning of architecture. What was that? Output-based education or outcome-based education? The answer is very simple. We are always trying for an output-based education. We want an output. What is the output? The student is the output, mainly. Whether he is empowered or not, that is the question. Whether you get a steel fabricated building with glass facades and all those things acting as a green box and very good for your eye, that's not the issue. That's not the product I am speaking about. The outcome is an empowered architect. Whatever you get in the process, just discourse and get it refined so that the product in my mind and my understanding is the architect. I am in that business of making, fine-tuning and making him empowered to address the issues so that they can, at least I can trust that he can do the jobs as I do. Let me be very faithful in that. If I am able to do something, my student also should be able to do the same thing. This is all the philosophy is. Whether it is outcome, whether it is cognitive, whether it is, what all you can bring in, it's a matter of interpretation. See, project-based architecture, product-based architecture, or you go for outcome. What is this outcome you are talking about? This is something which I would love to question. And our output and our outcome must be our students who graduate and come back and contribute to the building up of your school itself and the nation. Did I answer to that question?
Yeah. So actually, what we can see, there is very minor difference between what we say output and outcome. There's a thin line between
output in the smaller sense.
Yeah.
See, that's an engineering term, that's a production term, that's a factory term.
Yeah.
Outcome is also the process, some progression in it, and it's the outcome. It can be the natural outcome, which is accepted or not. So the production idea we must shift, keep it away from mind. Know that we are dealing with human beings and their brains and their unique bundles of knowledge and power. How to transform them? Better word will be outcome. It is not the output.
Okay. Thank you so much for your answer.
Yes, sir.
But the point I have to underline is this: cognition, perception is the one which is tangible, and cognition is the one which is intangible. And if you can reach cognition by way of your perception, improving the space, improving the legibility, improving the symbols and the graphics that you use, these are, or maybe they can experiment with, touch with, work with, these are all going to really motivate them and make them into more empowered type of people. Not that I have a degree, I have a registration from architecture school. I don't know the situation. I find it is very difficult to comment on that. We need to focus on the outcome must be our students. The outcome must be empowerment of our students. It should not be simply a project discussion. It is a individual empowerment that I am asking.
Right, sir.
I can't hear. I can't hear.
Hello. Now can you hear?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So what I was saying, when we are talking of the outcome, apart of the cognitive domain, we should also take into consideration the affective domain as well as the psychomotor, because the soft skills are quite important for the empowerment of the student. Right? Am I correct?
The psychomotor thinking, that process is something about the higher order thinking.
Yeah.
Let our students start thinking in the right way, then let us go to higher order. So cognition basically gets affected only if the perception happens. Perception, for perceiving, we have got 5 senses plus kinesthetics. Let the students experience that. Let the students understand that. What it means darkness to them, what it means light to them, what it means different moods to them, rather than simply talking about light and without understanding. See, this as I should not make this comment, that's why I'm withholding from it. Many of our education programs fail because we talk and talk and talk too much without understanding.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your answer.
I hope I have
Yes.
I have dwelt into very murky waters. I know I have questioned the institution, I have questioned the accreditation bodies, I have questioned the teachers, I have also suggested many things to our students. And it is the joint venture of all these can happen and lead us into empowerment.
Right, sir.
Right. One of the participant is asking a question. I'll read it. How do we make sure that there is a balance achieved in terms of foundational knowledge transfer and fast-paced result using technology? As sometimes we feel people start drafting before designing. So technology does not help the learning at the core, rather hinders it. Yes, it generally happens in the classrooms also. So how to address the situation? I think this is the question.
I would redirect the question to the teachers themselves. Do we encourage our students to draft before they design?
No, we generally never.
You should know what to draw. So without the knowledge of what to draw, how you will draw? I think that question is self-explanatory, and it's a matter of see, for example, I tell you, a B plan student I had as a research assistant, I told him to draw a plan. I gave the sketches and all those things. He started drafting the plan. He doesn't have an idea of what measurement is. And then finally that was looking like a plan. It is fine, but in performance, in related to structure, related to scale, all these things are missing. So I think without design, how can one draft? That's a big question.
Right.
Or you should go for the deductive thinking, where you start with a cube and then scoop out things and then finally making a product out of it. But don't you think that's a limitation? Additions also have the same, that if you think in the additive mode, then also it will be limitation. Say for example, Kerala architecture, the Vastu Shastra, if you want to expand Ekashala to Dishala to the Trishala and Chadrashala, means 1 block, 2 block, 3 block, 4 block, and then comes a courtyard formed in the middle. This is an additive thing, but it has its own limitations. And on the contrary, look at the creative designers like Frank Lloyd Wright or Laurie Baker from our context. They simply have the understanding, and that understanding about the building or the architecture, which they call, is brought into existence even without drawing.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes, as in the academicians, sometimes we need to guide our students to know this is not the right path. It is more important to what to draw instead of how to draw. So we can change this phenomena, or we can improve this phenomena in the class to a certain extent. This is the role of a studio director actually. So one more question is there by Mr. Mujafar Ali. How to implement cognitive attributes and architectural industry outcomes into the studio projects, especially in current pandemic situation?
Yeah, this is the problem that I told you. Now we are reduced to more of visual and auditory. We have no tactile feelings. We have no olfactory senses. So I think have you read this book, Eye of the Skin by Palasma? Please refer to that. It is called The Eye of the Skin. The book is named Eye of the Skin. So if you go through that, you will find how much we lose and lack if we can't touch the surface. How much of understanding is lost in that process. So if you ask me to teach architecture, of course we are getting troubled every day to convince our students. See, this year's being the first year gone, second year gone, it's fine. First year is the problem. How do you bring in this idea of spaces into their mind? With just a drafting pad, digital board, and then speaking to somebody, I don't think it is an effective way of guiding students and making a transformation in them. It's very difficult. If our efficiency was 100%, then now our efficiency is only 40%.
Right, sir. I hope Mujafar Ali got the answer of this question. There's one more question I can see in the chat box by Anika Verma. I believe innovation evolves around requirements, changing social structure, human behavioral, and the physical requirements. Cognitive learning may not serve the purpose singularly. The development psyche and the emotions may define the path forward. Please comment on this statement.
Definitely innovation centers around need, definitely. But are we understanding the real need? To understand the real need, you have to go back to the Nalanda Takshashila system of education, where the minimum duration of a degree was 6 years. And I would recommend BR's program to be brought to the 3+3 year, 6-year system, where at the end of 3 years you have an ejection possibility, and then you get into the professional masters after 6 years. We are developing that system of thinking. I don't know how the reaction of the higher authorities accreditation bodies to this. We already know 5 years is a longer period. But if you really want to have a productive, creative, empowered architect in all these type of soft skills, simulation, modeling, prediction systems, we need to go through a lot of models, isn't it? A lot of software. And to understand what is working within a software, it itself takes time. So I hope you understand the gravity of the situation, and all of you stand with me. My appeal is 3 years, then you have a rejection possibility. If the students opt for architecture and the real architecture, then they should be brought into 3 streams of architecture, like management, design thinking, and then research and development. So that will be an integrated master's. They will get the professional master's degree, and then who needs a licensing stuff, council can easily give them the license. They are already with 6 years of experience and intensive research. And our schools must focus on definitely technology. See, if you can't afford a slow speed wind tunnel, if you don't have the space for it, you can generate that through a software. Of course, we are moving from the field-based study to simulation-based studies, but still it is better.
Yes, having a 6 years course, although it's going to be a very daring.
Yeah. I think architecture must be taken seriously. I really appreciate Philip Johnson for that. Yes, when everybody laughs, I am serious about my architecture. That was his comment. Let's be serious about our business.
Yes. Definitely. I think this will add some quality education.
I tell you now, the situation is slowly changing. That all architecture students, not all of them were coming for doctorate. Probably 15-20 years back, nobody wanted doctorate. That's gradually it happened, the shift in it. Now, see, my doctoral students are, one is working on cognition-based education, one is working on resilience, one is working on the sustainability issues, another one is working on tourism-related issues. See, another one is working in traditional mortars and their strength, comparison of all these things, getting in a little bit idea more into the Indian knowledge systems. See, we had, I'll tell you, our annual, we conduct 2 times Ph.D. admissions. And in each admission, we get 60 to 70 students, and we select only 5 or 7 maximum. This is the level of expectation that we have from our scholars. And let's think about seriously about our profession. Let's think seriously about our profession.
True. Someone is just commenting a general note. Treating architecture at parallel with the engineering discipline causes too much disconnects. I think it's fact, because these 2 things are complete and their expected outcome is very different. Their complete behavior is different. So comparing architecture with the engineering is creating so many issues.
The problem in that question is engineering branches are designed to produce apprentices. They will be employed in industries, and then only after some time they will be called engineers. Not that you get a mechanical degree enable you to become a mechanical engineer. It's an apprentice in mechanical engineering. Whereas our course, the speciality is we are given the power and authority to play with hard-earned money. If you survive, you survive. If you don't survive, you are the person responsible for it. Ours is a professional program which grants us power. Once the council gives you the registration, we have the power. But engineering is basically an apprenticeship. So 4 years is probably enough for them, I do not know. But for us, we really need 6 years of training minimum. Just look back and ask this question, how much I was capable when I got my BH degree. Of course, our training is far superior because we give a lot of emphasis on communication. We have seminars and discourses and all those things which makes our life easier, but still take our life seriously, take our profession seriously. I think you are the torchbearers. You have to take up this and move. We have done our very best in our young years, and of course we can only help you out. And thank you all once again for inviting me. I have struggled much for your seminar. You have given me enough of work, voiceover, other things, and PPT, paper, all things I have done. And finally came back to the traditional mode in Zoom. And Zoom is not allowed in our institute also. So that is another problem.
Okay.
Thank you so much anyway.
So thank you so much for being with us. It was wonderful interaction with you.
And definitely I will be available. You know my email ID.
Yeah, sir.
Or the teachers who want, and we can think of joint programs also.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Yes, it was really a wonderful session, very interactive, and I session and the level of participation is a complete reflection of how interesting it was. So thank you again, sir.